Did you know that in ancient Rome, a wedding day wasn't always a celebration? For many women, it was the most frightening day of their lives. To the crowd, Roman weddings looked joyful: flowers, torches, music, and laughter. But for the bride, that celebration marked the end of her freedom, her childhood, and often her safety. Today, we're uncovering what Roman brides feared the most and why marriage in ancient Rome was less about love and more about survival. Most Roman brides were very young, 12, 13, sometimes 14 years old. Marriage meant immediate separation from everything familiar. Once married, a girl left her father's household forever and entered her husband's control. One Roman wedding ritual made this painfully clear. During the ceremony, the bride was symbolically torn from her mother's arms, sometimes while crying or resisting. This wasn't accidental. It was meant to represent the total and irreversible break from her childhood life. For many Roman brides, the fear wasn't just leaving home. It was knowing they might never feel protected or loved in the same way again. Marriage also meant losing legal power. In many Roman marriages, a woman passed under a system called manus, where her husband gained authority over her similar to a father over a child. He controlled her money, her movements, her daily life. A Roman bride had no political voice, no independence, and often no legal protection from mistreatment. If her husband was cruel, society expected her to endure it quietly. Divorce existed, but attempting it could destroy her reputation. Marriage was a gamble, and the bride had no say in the odds. For many brides, the most feared moment was the wedding night. It was often their first sexual experience, usually with an older man they barely knew. There was no concept of consent as we understand it today. A wife was expected to submit without question. Roman writers openly acknowledged that brides cried on their wedding nights. Tears were considered normal, even expected. The bride was escorted to the marital bed, then left alone. Fear, confusion, and pain were simply seen as part of becoming a wife. Romance was not the goal. Obedience and fertility were. Once married, a Roman woman lived under constant judgment. Her behavior reflected directly on her husband's honor. Any rumor of disobedience or immodesty could ruin her reputation for life. Even infertility, something beyond her control, was blamed entirely on her. If she failed to produce children, especially sons, she risked humiliation, rejection, or divorce. Every action was watched, every mistake remembered. For a Roman bride, shame was always one step away. Perhaps the greatest fear of all was pregnancy. Roman medicine was primitive. Infections were common. Complications were deadly. Many women never survived their first childbirth. Roman gravestones tell the same tragic story again and again. Young wives dead at 16 or 17, married briefly, gone forever. Marriage was supposed to secure a woman's future. Instead, it often shortened her life. Every pregnancy carried the silent fear that she might not survive. Marriage also meant losing oneself. Roman women were expected to be silent, loyal, and invisible. Their purpose was to serve their husband and raise children. Personal dreams didn't matter. Opinions weren't welcome. A bride feared becoming nothing more than someone's property, remembered not for who she was, but for who she belonged to. And for most women, that fear became reality. Once married, escape was rare. Widows were often pressured to remarry. Independence was fragile and temporary. A Roman bride entered marriage knowing her future depended entirely on things she could not control: her husband, her fertility, her health, her reputation. Any one of them could destroy her life. So while Roman weddings were filled with celebration, the bride often walked forward in silence. She feared separation. She feared submission. She feared shame, pain, and death. And most of all, she feared that once she crossed that threshold, her life would never truly be her own again. Because in ancient Rome, marriage wasn't the beginning of a love story. It was the beginning of survival.